When I died, the last thing I heard was laughter. Not from angels, not from demons, from Mason. He stood over me in the rain, holding my cracked phone between two fingers like it was garbage. My body was pinned under twisted metal. My ribs felt like broken glass. The road smelled like gasoline. Mason leaned close and smiled. The mouth of a prince, the eyes of a snake. He said I should have known my place. Then everything went white. When I opened my eyes again, I was not in heaven. I was in math class. A piece of chalk was bouncing off my forehead. The teacher had just asked me a question. Everyone was laughing. Chloe was still alive. My dad's business had not collapsed yet. My mom's picture was still on my desk at home. And Mason was sitting by the window, spinning an expensive pen between his fingers, looking at me like I was a bug that had crawled onto his shoe. I knew this day. This was 6 years before my death. The day my life started falling apart. I grabbed the edge of the desk so hard my nails turned white. Then a silver rectangle appeared in front of my eyes. It looked exactly like a search bar. A blinking cursor waited in the middle. I thought I was hallucinating until words appeared under it. Search anything. Reality will answer. One answer per question. Specific questions get specific truth. Careless questions get careless truth. My heartbeat almost stopped. Everyone around me was still laughing, but their voices sounded far away now. I slowly typed with my mind. Why did I come back to life? The bar loaded for 1 second. Answer: because you died with unfinished influence. The world rejected your ending and gave you a tool suited to your soul. That was ridiculous. So I searched again. Can anyone else see this? Answer: no. I looked at Mason. He smirked, expecting me to sit there like the same useless loser he remembered. In my first life, that was exactly what I did. I lowered my head. I apologized. I became the joke of the class. Not this time. The teacher snapped at me to answer the problem on the board. I searched what is the answer to the equation on the board, including the mistake in the teacher's setup. The bar replied instantly. So I stood up, walked to the front, solved it, then circled the teacher's wrong sign in red chalk. The room went silent. The teacher's face changed from annoyed to confused to pale. Mason stopped spinning his pen. For the first time in 6 years, nobody laughed. That was when I understood. The search bar was not a power that made me strong. It was worse. It made everyone else predictable. After class, Mason stepped into my path with that fake friendly smile. He asked when I had started studying. His mouth was smiling, but his eyes were measuring me. I searched, what does Mason want from me right now? Answer: he wants to confirm whether your change is luck, cheating, or a threat. So I gave him nothing. I smiled like an idiot and said my brain finally updated. He laughed with the others, but his fingers tightened around his pen. Good. Let him wonder. That afternoon, I ran home instead of wasting time. In my first life, Dad's small electronics shop failed because of a supplier deal that looked amazing. He signed it 2 weeks from now. 3 months later, fake invoices buried him. Debt collectors came. He sold the house. Chloe started pretending her chest pains were nothing because we could not afford more hospital bills. Then everything got worse. I stood outside the shop, breathing hard. Dad was inside arguing with a customer about a broken laptop. He looked tired, hopeful, and doomed. I did not have money. I did not have status. I had one blinking cursor. So I searched, why does my father's business fail in this timeline? The answer unfolded like a blade. A distributor will push counterfeit batteries through a friendly contract. The warranty claims will destroy the shop. The distributor is secretly owned by Mason's family network. Proof is stored in a hidden spreadsheet on the sales manager's laptop. My stomach went cold. Mason had not just mocked me in school. His family had crushed mine like roadkill. I searched again. How can I expose the counterfeit battery contract before Dad signs it without sounding insane? Answer: trigger a warranty audit. Ask 3 customers with swollen batteries to return at the same hour. Record the sales manager admitting the source when he panics. That was all I needed. By sunset, I had found the 3 customers, not by luck, by searching which recent customers bought the dangerous batteries. Where are they now? What sentence will make them come back without scaring them? The next day, the shop became a trap. 3 angry customers arrived at once. The sales manager turned white. Dad demanded answers. I kept my phone recording under a stack of receipts. When the manager tried to whisper that the shipment came from a special channel, I searched. What should I say to make him confess fully? The bar replied, ask why Mason's family gets paid per returned unit. So I said it. The man froze. That tiny freeze was enough. Dad stared at him. The customers stared at him. The manager broke. By night, Dad had canceled the contract. By morning, the distributor was under investigation. By the end of the week, the same companies that had planned to bury us were begging Dad not to talk. I searched what settlement amount can Dad demand without triggering a legal war. Answer: $280,000 and exclusive repair rights for local schools. I wrote the number on a napkin. Dad thought it was insane. Then they paid. For the first time in years, our kitchen smelled like real food instead of instant noodles. Chloe danced around the table in her yellow cardigan, laughing like nothing bad had ever touched her. Then she coughed. One small cough. Her hand pressed her chest for half a second. In my first life, I ignored it. This time, I did not even blink. I searched what medical condition is Chloe hiding from us. The answer hit harder than death. Undiagnosed arrhythmogenic heart disease, symptoms worsening, high risk of sudden cardiac arrest within 1 year if untreated. The kitchen lights felt too bright. Chloe caught me staring and smiled too quickly. She said she was fine. I searched how do I make Chloe admit the symptoms without making her scared. Answer: tell her you already know about the blue lips after gym class. So I did. Her smile cracked. That night I used the bar like a scalpel. Which specialist can save Chloe? Which hospital has an opening? Which insurance loophole covers the procedure? Which charity director secretly owes Dad a favor? Which exact words make the cardiologist take us seriously in one appointment? I did not sleep. By morning, Chloe was in a hospital bed with wires on her chest and fear in her eyes. Dad kept asking how I knew. I told him I noticed things. That was not a lie. I noticed everything now. The doctor said we were lucky. I almost laughed. Luck was what weak people called information they did not have. While Chloe recovered, Mason made his first real move. At school, rumors spread that I cheated on exams. A parent complaint hit the principal's office. Security cameras showed me standing near a teacher's desk after hours. It was fake, of course. In my first life, Mason used money and charm. This time, he used editing software. I searched who fabricated the cheating evidence against me and where is the original file. Answer: a student council assistant edited the footage on a school media computer. Original metadata remains in the recycle bin under a deleted project folder. I could have exposed him quietly, but quiet victories are forgotten. I searched how can I clear my name while making Mason afraid of my reach. Answer: during the assembly, ask for the file to be played directly from the media computer, then request the deleted project folder be restored in front of everyone. So I waited. The whole school gathered in the auditorium. The principal frowned. Mason sat in the front row, looking sad for me, like a noble friend betrayed by a criminal. The fake video played. People whispered. Then I raised my hand. My voice shook on purpose. I said I only wanted the original file checked. The media teacher clicked through the folders. Nothing. Mason's smile returned. Then I asked him to open the recycle bin. The smile died. One restored file later, the entire auditorium saw the editing timeline, the cropped frame, the timestamp layer, and the assistant's login. The principal went pale. The students gasped. Mason stared at the screen without moving. I searched, what is Mason thinking right now? Answer, he is wondering whether you have a hacker, a spy, or a gift. Perfect. I did not need him to know the truth. I needed him to fear every possibility. After that, people stopped calling me dumb. They started calling me lucky. Then lucky became suspicious. Then suspicious became dangerous. So I needed power that looked normal. Money. I searched what song would make people cry in 2012 if released by an unknown artist. The bar gave me lyrics, melody structure, chord progression, and the reason it worked: nostalgia for childhood summers mixed with grief disguised as hope. I could not sing. So I searched which street musician within 10 miles has the exact voice for this song and no current contract. Answer, a girl playing near the subway at 6:10 p.m. with a cracked blue guitar. I went there. A crowd passed her like she was invisible. She sang one note and my skin tingled. I offered her a simple deal through an unsigned online channel I created that night. No name, no face, just music. Before uploading, I searched, what title will make people click without feeling tricked? Answer, the last summer we were kids. The song went up at midnight. By morning, it had 10,000 views. By the next night, 2 million. By the end of the week, half the school was crying to it in the hallways without knowing I owned the publishing rights. Mason's friends mocked the anonymous producer as a one-hit ghost. So I searched the next hit. Then the next. I did not steal fame. I manufactured inevitability. Every search taught me something. The bar was not just handing me answers, it was training my questions. When I asked broad things, it gave vague garbage. When I asked with conditions, timing, names, incentives, and traps, it became terrifying. I searched, how do I become rich without drawing attention from Mason's family? Answer, own boring assets before they become necessary. That sentence changed everything. I stopped chasing flashy stocks. I bought storage units near a road no one cared about. 6 months later, a new shipping route made them priceless. I bought an old laundromat because the search bar told me the basement wall hid access to a fiber optic junction. 1 year later, every data company in the city wanted that block. I bought patents from retired engineers who thought their ideas were dead. I bought land nobody liked because future flood maps said it would become the new safe zone. I bought vending machine routes, broken apps, abandoned radio towers, expired domain names, and one ugly warehouse that pigeons had claimed as their kingdom. Everyone laughed. Then the ugly warehouse became the only building tall enough for a new emergency antenna contract. Nobody laughed when the first check cleared. But Mason's family did not become rich by ignoring threats. One night, a black car followed me from the hospital. Chloe had just finished another treatment. She was tired but smiling. I saw the headlights in the mirror and felt my hands go cold. I searched, are the people in the black car planning to harm us tonight? Answer, yes, they intend to scare you, take your laptop, and warn you away from Mason. I searched, how do I stop them without fighting? Answer, lead them to the south parking garage. At 9:42, a delivery truck will block the exit. Pull the fire alarm after they enter. Police response time, 4 minutes. So I drove slowly. The car followed. I parked in the garage, helped Chloe out, and pretended to drop my keys. 2 men stepped from the shadows. Chloe whispered my name. I smiled at her like my heart was not trying to escape my chest. At exactly 9:42, the delivery truck rolled across the exit. I pulled the fire alarm. Water sprayed down, lights flashed. The men panicked. One slipped on the wet concrete. The other tried to run and slammed into a closing security gate. Police arrived before they could explain why they were wearing masks in a hospital garage. Chloe stared at me on the ride home. She asked if I was psychic. I searched, what answer will make Chloe trust me without telling the whole truth? Answer, tell her you are done being surprised by bad people. So I did. She leaned her head against the window. For now, it was enough. The next search that changed my life was not about money. It was about people. Who will become a great scientist but is currently ignored? The answer gave me a name and location. Ava. She was at a community college lab, being yelled at by a professor who did not understand her experiment. Her silver braids were tied back with a rubber band. Her teal lab coat was covered in equations. Everyone treated her like a weird assistant. The search bar said she would create room-temperature bioelectric storage in 9 years, if not crushed by debt first. 9 years was too long. I walked into that lab with a fake investor badge, a rented suit, and a number written on my palm. I searched what proof will convince Ava I understand the value of her work. Answer: ask why she used algae proteins instead of synthetic gel. So I asked. Her eyes sharpened. The room changed. Everyone else became background noise. I offered her funding, a lab in complete control. The professor laughed so hard he almost choked. Ava looked at my cheap shoes, my borrowed suit, and my serious face. She asked why I believed in her. I searched before answering. What sentence makes Ava accept without feeling owned? Answer: because the world is going to need your mind, and I am only buying the chance not to be left behind. She signed 2 days later. That was how my first company was born. No fancy headquarters. No polished boardroom. Just an ugly warehouse, a hidden fiber junction, a genius nobody respected, and me asking reality where to hit next. Ava built prototypes faster than investors could understand them. I used the search bar to find materials before shortages, regulators before delays, and customers before they knew they had problems. When a battery test exploded and almost destroyed the lab, I searched the failure. Answer: microscopic impurity in batch C, supplier cut corners. I did not sue. I searched: what does the supplier fear most? Answer: losing the military drone contract hidden under a shell company. So I sent one email with one photo of the impurity report. A replacement shipment arrived the next morning for free. Ava looked at the crates and asked how I did it. I told her I read people. She said that was not an answer. I smiled. It was the only answer I could give. By the time I graduated, I was no longer the poor kid Mason could push around. I owned music rights. I owned land. I owned patents. I owned enough quiet little companies that adults twice my age started calling me sir through clenched teeth. And Mason hated it. He had spent his whole life standing at the top of a staircase. Every time he looked down, I was one step closer. So he stopped playing school games. He attacked Chloe. Not directly. Mason was too klein for that. He bought the hospital debt fund connected to her treatment center. Suddenly, our coverage was under review. Appointments vanished. Documents went missing. A clerk told us the procedure schedule had been rebalanced. Chloe tried to act brave. Her hands trembled around the paper cup. I went to the restroom, locked the stall, and searched with so much rage the silver bar flickered red. How do I save Chloe's treatment and destroy Mason's leverage permanently? Answer: acquire the debt fund through its weakest investor, expose the illegal patient steering scheme, and donate the treatment wing under a public trust before Mason can reverse the paperwork. It sounded impossible. So I broke it into searches. Who is the weakest investor? What do they need tonight? Which lawyer can file before sunrise? Which journalist will verify before being threatened? What public sentence makes Mason look guilty if he responds? By morning, I owned the debt fund's controlling vote through 3 sleepy holding companies. By noon, the hospital board was under investigation. By evening, Chloe's treatment wing had a new name, the Open Heart Trust. No last names. No donor photo. No ceremony. Just a locked guarantee that nobody could cancel care for profit again. Mason called me that night. I answered because I wanted to hear his breathing. He did not yell. That was how I knew he was furious. He said I was playing a game I did not understand. I searched, what does Mason believe his advantage is? Answer, he believes your weakness is emotional attachment and that Chloe is the center of your decisions. He was half right. Chloe was my weakness. But information turns weakness into bait. I told him he should stop aiming at people I loved. He laughed softly. Then he said people like me only rise high enough to make a better sound when they fall. I searched, what is Mason's next move? Answer, he will invite you to a youth innovation summit, publicly praise you, then leak forged documents tying your companies to medical fraud. I almost smiled. There are few gifts better than an enemy who loves drama. At the summit, Mason walked on stage in a black designer blazer, under lights bright enough to make him look holy. He praised my journey. He called me inspiring. He invited me up like a generous king allowing a peasant into court. The audience clapped. Cameras turned. I searched, what will expose the forged documents before they go live? Answer, the leak packet uses a future version of a tax form not released until next quarter. Beautiful. Mason began his speech about integrity. My phone buzzed with the scheduled leak. Reporters gasped as the documents hit their inboxes. Mason's smile widened. Then I asked one question into the microphone. Why does the evidence use a tax form that does not exist yet? Silence fell so hard it felt physical. A reporter checked. Then another. Then all of them. Mason's eyes did not move, but his jaw tightened by 1 millimeter. The king had blinked. I searched, how do I finish him without looking cruel? Answer, thank him for bringing transparency to the industry and request a full audit of both companies live on stage. So I did. The crowd applauded because they thought I was noble. Mason applauded too because cameras were watching. 3 weeks later, the audit found nothing in my companies and 13 violations in his family network. Their stock dropped. My valuation tripled. That was my first public victory. But public victories attract public monsters. The search bar began showing something new after that. Autocomplete. Whenever I started typing, reality suggested sharper questions. Not answers. Questions. It was like the bar wanted me to become better. How do I make monies? Became. Which overlooked asset becomes critical after the next policy change? How do I beat Mason? Became. Which incentive will make Mason choose the trap himself? How do I protect Chloe? Became. Which future threat will reach Chloe if I only defend the obvious path? The more specific I became, the more the world opened. I used autocomplete to build a media company that bought stories before they became scandals. I used it to fund Ava's research through grants written with perfect wording. I used it to predict supply chain breaks, election swings, food trends, app addictions, and the exact week adults would suddenly pretend they always believed in me. By 22, I was on magazine covers. The captions called me a visionary. My old classmates called me lucky. Mason called me a thief. Ava called me dangerous. She was the only one whose opinion bothered me. One night she found me alone in the lab, staring at a wall of search results. Screens glowed around me. Maps, names, contracts, medical data, weather models, and market forecasts floated like pieces of a giant invisible machine. She said every miracle I made had a shadow. I searched, what is Ava afraid I am becoming? Answer, someone who confuses knowing the answer with deserving control. For once, I did not have a clever reply. Because she was right. The search bar could tell me what worked. It could not tell me what should matter. Then Chloe walked in with a hospital bracelet on her wrist and a grin on her face. She had been cleared for normal activity. She ran across the lab and hugged me so hard I forgot every warning. That night I searched something selfish. How do I make sure Chloe lives a long, happy life? The bar loaded longer than usual. Answer, you cannot guarantee happiness. you can only remove certain knives from the dark. That answer stayed with me. Because the knives were already moving. Mason disappeared from public view for 6 months. No interviews. No parties. No attacks. That scared me more than anything. I searched him every morning. What is Mason doing today? Where is Mason spending money? Which people around Mason have changed behavior? What future event connects to Mason's silence? The answers were blurry. Not false. Blocked. Then autocomplete offered a question by itself. Who is searching back? My blood went cold. I entered it. Answer: Mason is building an artificial prediction engine trained on stolen data from your companies, hospitals, media platforms, and Ava's lab. Its goal is to imitate your impossible accuracy. For the first time, someone had built a fake version of my miracle. Not as good, but close enough to be dangerous. Mason did not need truth. He needed people to believe he had it. He launched Oracle, a public prediction platform with a smile and a promise: no more uncertainty. At first, it looked harmless. Weather alerts, market warnings, medical risk scores, crime forecasts. Then banks started using it. Then police. Then hospitals. Then schools. A student lost a scholarship because Oracle predicted low future productivity. A worker lost insurance because Oracle predicted high medical cost. A neighborhood got surrounded by patrol drones because Oracle predicted unrest. Mason had created a search bar for people who wanted permission to be cruel. And the world loved it. Because cruelty feels better when a machine says it is math. I searched, how do I destroy Oracle? Answer: you cannot destroy it from outside. People trust it because it appears useful. You must make it choose between accuracy and obedience in public. That meant a trap. I searched for the smallest lie inside Oracle that could become a giant crack. Answer: Oracle hides uncertainty by deleting low-confidence predictions involving Mason's family assets. I searched which event forces Oracle to predict Mason's own loss. Answer: a live televised auction for the abandoned river district, where Mason plans to buy through a shell company. The river district was ugly, polluted, and forgotten. But my search bar had already told me the truth. Under the cracked streets was a rare mineral deposit created by an old industrial accident. Ava's storage technology needed it. Whoever controlled the district would control the next energy age. Mason knew because he stole lab data. I knew because reality told me. So I turned the auction into a circus. I bought ads asking Oracle to predict the winner. I leaked rumors that I was broke. I made 3 fake companies bid like clowns. I had my media network livestream everything. Mason arrived in person because his ego could not resist stepping on my throat publicly. He smiled across the room. I searched, what does Mason expect me to do? Answer: overbid emotionally after he insults Chloe. I almost laughed out loud. He really thought I was still that boy under the rain. The auction started. Prices climbed. My fake companies dropped out one by one. Mason's shell company bid high. Then he looked at me and mentioned Chloe's hospital wing with a soft little smile. The room went quiet. Everyone expected me to snap. Instead, I searched, what bid makes Mason believe I am desperate while keeping him legally trapped? Answer: $1 below the reserve trigger that forces proof of funds from the highest bidder. So I bid exactly that. Mason smirked and topped me. The hammer came down. He won. Then the auction system demanded immediate proof of funds. His shell company hesitated. Oracle had predicted a clean win, so every camera turned toward him. I searched, what sentence makes the room understand before lawyers can spin it? Answer: ask why Oracle predicted a bidder that cannot legally pay. So I asked. The shell company failed verification. The auction reset. Mason's face became stone. Then Oracle glitched on the live stream. For 3 seconds, the hidden uncertainty layer flashed on the giant screen. Prediction suppressed, Mason linked asset risk. The internet exploded. By midnight, regulators opened investigations. By morning, banks suspended Oracle's government contracts. By the end of the week, Oracle was not dead, but it was bleeding. Mason called it sabotage. He was right. The best traps use the truth as teeth. But Mason still had one advantage. He knew Ava was the source of the technology that made the river district valuable. So he tried to steal her. A private security team raided our warehouse lab during a thunderstorm. They cut the power. Drones crashed through skylights. Smoke filled the floor. Ava grabbed a prototype core, no bigger than a suitcase. I searched, how do we escape the lab alive with Ava and the core? Answer, do not run to the exits. Drop through the old laundry chute into the sealed fiber basement. Trigger the fire foam. Use the service tunnel unlocked by the laundromat wall. That ridiculous laundromat. The one everyone mocked. It became our escape route. I grabbed Ava's hand and pulled her through smoke. Metal footsteps pounded behind us. A drone's red eye swept across the room. Ava shouted that the chute was too narrow. I searched what is the exact way Ava can pass through without breaking the core. Answer, core first, left shoulder down, exhale fully. I yelled it. She stared at me like I was insane, then did it. We dropped into darkness as fire foam blasted above us, burying the lab in white. Behind us, the attackers found nothing but bubbles, alarms, and a warehouse full of cameras streaming their faces online. By the time Mason's people realized the basement existed, we were already under the street. Ava stopped in the tunnel, breathing hard. She asked what I was. The search bar blinked before I could stop it. What answer will make Ava stay? I did not enter it. For once, I answered alone. I told her I was scared all the time, and the only reason I looked calm was because panic wasted seconds. Ava studied my face. Then she kept walking. That was the first trust I earned without searching. After the raid, the war became open. Mason bought politicians. I bought their secrets. Mason bought police chiefs. I funded independent oversight boards with better lawyers. Mason bought news anchors. I released raw footage faster than they could lie. Every move he made, I searched the pressure point. Not the biggest weakness. The smallest, unavoidable one. A corrupt official afraid of his daughter learning the truth. A banker hiding gambling debts. A lobbyist whose entire scheme depended on one assistant not getting sick. A warehouse full of illegal surveillance, drones with batteries from the same counterfeit network that almost destroyed Dad years ago. The world thought I was lucky because I always arrived at the right place. They did not see the hundreds of bad questions I burned through to find the one that mattered. But the search bar had limits. One night after 73 searches in a row, blood ran from my nose. A warning appeared. Too many searches without action. Reality answers those who move. I left, then passed out. When I woke, Chloe was sitting beside me, furious and crying. She said I saved everyone like they were equations, but I was still made of meat. I wanted to joke. She slapped my arm before I could. I searched, how do I reassure Chloe? The bar did not answer. Another warning appeared. Some answers must be earned normally. So I told her the truth. Not all of it, but enough. I told her I had a power that gave me answers. I told her I used it to save her. I told her Mason was dangerous. I told her if I stopped, he would turn the whole world into a machine that punished the weak before they even failed. Chloe listened quietly. Then she said the scariest thing anyone had ever said to me. If you can search anything, why are you still letting Mason decide the game? That hit me harder than every threat. Because she was right. I had been reacting, defending, countering, surviving. That was loser thinking. So I searched the biggest question I had ever dared to ask. What is Mason's final goal? The bar went dark. Then one answer appeared. Mason plans to connect Oracle to the national emergency grid during the World Stability Summit, giving him control over finance, medical access, law enforcement priority, energy rationing, and public identity scores. After activation, removing him will cause collapse. The summit was in 30 days. I searched, how do I stop Mason without causing collapse? Answer, build a better replacement that people can choose in the same moment Oracle reveals what it truly is. That was insane. We had 30 days to build an alternative to a global control engine. Ava smiled for the first time in weeks. She said insane was just a deadline with bad manners. We built in the underground levels beneath the laundromat because no one respectable ever looked under dirty washing machines. Ava built the hardware. I searched for safe data sources. Chloe organized volunteers who had been hurt by Oracle's predictions. Dad's old shop became a repair center for devices people were afraid to register. I refused to let the new system predict human worth. It could forecast infrastructure risk, medicine shortages, disaster routes, and supply needs, but it could not score a person's future value. Ava carved that rule into the code like a commandment. We called it Lantern, not because it saw everything, because it helped people see their next step. Mason found out 5 days before the summit. Of course he did. He sent me a video. He was standing inside the summit hall, beneath a giant glass dome. His blonde hair was perfect. His black blazer looked untouched by human stress. Behind him, workers installed Oracle's glowing black servers like an altar. He said I had been entertaining. Then he showed me Chloe. She was not captured. She was on a public street, surrounded by drones. Oracle had flagged her as a biosecurity risk because of her medical implants. People backed away from her like she was contagious. Mason had not kidnapped her. He had weaponized public fear. I searched, how do I save Chloe from the drone cordon without revealing Lantern early? Answer, you do not. Revealing Lantern now saves Chloe and weakens the summit plan. Waiting preserves the plan and risks Chloe's death. My hands shook. For once, reality gave me no clean win. Ava looked at the answer. Chloe's voice came through the emergency line, breathless but steady. She told me not to trade the world for her. I almost broke. Then I searched a different question. What hidden assumption makes this choice false? The bar flashed gold. Answer, the drones follow Oracle's risk hierarchy. A higher public risk within 2 blocks will redirect them. That was the kind of question the old me would never have asked. I searched what harmless event can create a higher public risk without hurting anyone. Answer, overload the antique fountain pumps under the plaza. Steam pressure will trigger infrastructure collapse alerts and redirect drones for evacuation. I sent the command through a maintenance system I had bought 3 years earlier because the search bar said fountains would matter someday. The plaza erupted in steam. Pavement shook. Water blasted upward. Drones spun away from Chloe and formed an evacuation corridor. Chloe ran through the mist, yellow cardigan soaked, curls stuck to her face, laughing like a lunatic. Mason's video smile vanished. That was the moment I knew he could lose. The summit arrived. World leaders, executives, generals, and cameras filled the glass hall. Mason stood on stage like the savior of civilization. He explained that people were emotional, messy, inefficient. Oracle would remove uncertainty. Oracle would decide who needed resources, who posed risks, who deserved opportunity. The audience nodded. They thought they were buying safety. They were buying a cage. I sat in the crowd wearing a cheap gray hoodie under a borrowed jacket, the same kind of hoodie Mason had mocked years ago. Ava was beneath the stage, plugged into Lantern's core. Chloe was outside with the volunteers. Every company I owned was ready to broadcast. Every secret Mason buried was lined up like dominoes. Still, one thing bothered me. I searched, what am I missing? The bar replied, Mason knows you are here. My skin prickled. On stage, Mason turned and looked straight at me. He smiled. Security lights changed red. The doors locked. He announced there was a saboteur in the room. My face appeared on every screen. Oracle listed me as a critical destabilization threat. Armed guards moved toward my row. For 1 second, the whole world saw me exactly how Mason wanted. A dangerous liar. A lucky fraud. A poor kid who climbed too high. The old fear rose in my throat. Then I searched, what is the one sentence that makes everyone hesitate? Answer, ask Oracle to show the evidence chain for its prediction. I stood up. Guards raised their weapons. My voice rang through the hall. Show the evidence chain. Mason's smile twitched. Oracle displayed a beautiful black box with a confidence score. No evidence. No sources. No appeal. Just judgment. The crowd murmured. I searched, what next? Answer, ask whether Oracle can score Mason. So I did. Mason laughed and said, of course. Oracle processed. Then the screen flashed. Subject protected by administrative exemption. The room changed. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a shift in the air as powerful people realized the cage had a private door. Mason snapped his fingers for security to move. Too late. Ava triggered lantern. Every screen split in half. On one side, Oracle showed scores. On the other, lantern showed causes. Oracle said a neighborhood was high risk. Lantern showed the hospital closure, water contamination, and food shortage causing unrest. Oracle said a worker was low value. Lantern showed untreated pain, wage theft, and a bus route cut from the budget. Oracle said Chloe was a biosecurity threat. Lantern showed a safe medical implant and an illegal fear amplification flag inserted by Mason's team. People did not need a speech. They saw it. Oracle predicted guilt. Lantern revealed pressure. Mason lunged for the manual activation switch. I had expected that. I searched weeks earlier. What physical action will Mason take if publicly cornered? Answer, he will trigger emergency override with his right palm. So the switch was real. But the floor beneath it was not. Ava had replaced that stage panel during setup through a cleaning contractor I hired after searching, which contractor Mason considered too boring to inspect. Mason slammed his palm down. The panel collapsed. He dropped waist deep into a maintenance pit, one arm flailing, blonde hair falling into his eyes, his perfect blazer covered in dust. Cameras caught everything. The prince in the pit. For the first time, people laughed at him. Mason screamed for Oracle to activate. Oracle tried. Lantern intercepted the emergency grid handoff with verified public keys released through every independent network I owned. Mason's servers overheated. Black towers sparked behind him. The giant glass dome filled with white smoke and red warning lights. He clawed out of the pit, face twisted, and shouted that the world needed him. I searched, what is Mason truly afraid of? Answer, being ordinary. So I walked to the edge of the stage and looked down at him. I told him he was not a god. He was just a scared rich boy with better toys. That broke him. He grabbed a fallen guard's weapon and pointed it at me. Chloe's voice shouted from the crowd. Ava yelled from below. The whole hall froze. I searched, how do I survive the next 10 seconds? The answer came instantly. Do not dodge left, step forward, his hand will shake high. Every instinct screamed to run. I stepped forward. Mason fired. The shot cracked past my ear and shattered the Oracle logo behind me. Glass rained down like glitter. Before he could fire again, the same guards who had been moving to arrest me tackled him, not because they loved me, not because they were heroes. Because Lantern had just shown them Oracle's private list of replaceable personnel, and every guard in that hall had been on it. Mason hit the floor under a pile of uniforms. His eyes found mine. For the first time, there was no smile. Only confusion. He had searched the world with money, fear, and stolen data. I had searched it with questions, and I had asked better ones. The aftermath moved faster than anyone could control. Oracle collapsed in court under evidence trails Lantern made readable to ordinary people. Mason's family network dissolved into investigations, seizures, betrayals, and emergency hearings. Every person he had stepped on to climb higher grabbed a piece of him on the way down. Ava became the most important scientist of the decade and still refused to wear clean lab coats. Chloe became healthy enough to run stairs just because she could, then started a patient rights network scarier than most armies. And me. People asked how I had known. They asked in interviews. They asked in court. They asked in whispers at parties where everyone pretended they had always respected me. I gave the same answer every time. I paid attention. That was true enough. But late at night, when the city lights blinked like a million tiny cursors, I still saw the search bar. It had changed again. The silver rectangle was no longer empty. It asked me a question. What will you search for now? I thought about the boy dying in the rain. I thought about Mason laughing. I thought about Chloe coughing into her sleeve. I thought about Ava standing in a lab nobody cared about. I thought about all the people Oracle had marked as useless before they ever got a chance. Then I typed the only question that mattered. How do I build a world where fewer people need a miracle to survive? The bar loaded for a long time. Longer than any search before. Finally, the answer appeared. Start by asking them what hurts. For once, I did not search the next step. I walked outside. Reporters shouted. Cameras flashed. Important people waited behind velvet ropes, hoping I would tell them the future. But across the street, a kid in a worn hoodie stood in the rain, clutching a broken phone, looking at the shining tower like it belonged to someone else. Everyone walked past him. I knew that look. So I crossed the street, crouched down, and asked what happened. The kid stared at me like nobody had ever asked before. And somewhere behind my eyes, the cursor blinked. Not rushing me. Not controlling me. Just waiting. Because reality had given me the strongest search bar in existence. But the final answer was never hidden in the bar. It was hidden in the question I chose to ask.